Right. So good morning, everybody. Good to see you all this morning, and thank you so much for being a part of our nonprofit listening session this month. So I'm just going to share my screen for a quick welcome before we get into the specifics of our day. Right. So again, this is one of our nonprofit listening sessions, and appreciate you all being a part of this today. As many of you know, we hold these monthly listening sessions, and in 2022, we are doing a couple months where we do these remotely, and then every quarter we'll do an in-person event, and I'll talk about our next one coming up in May. But today we're really excited to focus on GiveLocalNRV. So hopefully all of you are either already registered for GiveLocal or have every intention of doing so, and want to participate this year in using the GiveLocalNRV platform for our online giving day in June. So we're going to spend the majority of our time today with the 4 panelists that are listed here, and is talking as peers about how these organizations use different aspects of the GiveLocalNRV platform to have a successful giving day in 2021. I think you'll see that all of them took slightly different approaches and used different aspects of the platform, and really allowed it to meet their capacity and the audience that they were looking to get to. So a lot of great things to be able to talk through. And then I'll just have some quick announcements at the end, making sure you know where you can get further information about GiveLocal, as well as what we've got coming up with future listening sessions. So just a quick reminder to stay muted if you're not speaking, and use the chat if you have a question. We'll go through the panel questions first that I have, and then there'll be time at the end for your questions. So just stick those in the chat and we'll keep an eye on that, and be able to make sure that we get to those before the end of our session. So with that, I am gonna go ahead and get us started by introducing all of our panelists. And as you saw on the slide, we've got Beth Lohman with Friends of Huckleberry Trail, Andy Gillespie with NRV Cares, Kim Bowman with the Agape Center, and Taylor Terrell with Downtown Christiansburg, Inc. And I've got some questions for each one of you, but I thought what we could do to start is just have each of you tell us a little bit about what your organization does, how long you've participated in the annual Giving Day, and sort of who was involved in your decision last year to sort of take the approach that you took. So I am going to go ahead, since I see Andy's lovely face on my screen. Andy, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Gillespie, as just said, and I am the Executive Director of NRV Cares. And we've been involved in the Giving Day since its origination. As I understand, I've been with NRV Cares for the last 3 years, and we participated all 3 years. And it was my wild idea to kind of go a little bit more this past year and kind of push that power hour, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So fortunately, I have a team that supports my wild harebrained ideas and got on board with me. So and we were very successful.
And Andy, do you want to talk just a little bit about what NRV Cares does for anyone who's not familiar with it?
Oh, yes, apologies. Duh. We are, our mission is to protect children and strengthen families. So we are one of the local child abuse prevention agencies. We provide parent education, community education, and then the CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program of the NRV.
Yeah, lots of good work happening. All right, so Kim, how about introducing the Agape Center a little bit? Oh, and make sure you unmute for me.
Sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Kim Bowman. I'm the director of the local Agape Center. We're part of a larger organization in Virginia. There are 4 centers currently, and we provide food, clothing, diapers, all different types of resources to people that are in need, anywhere from furniture to household items. We help with rents and utilities and things like that. But we also mentor each of our clients, which I think is the key to the success of the Agape Center. And we have under Agape Center, this will be our second year participating. We actually originated from 4 existing nonprofits here in the area, and we come together 2 years ago and went under the Agape umbrella. So we had previous experience with the online platform through some of those other nonprofits as well.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks, Kim. All right. So Beth, you want to tell us a little bit about Friends of the Huckleberry?
Sure. So Friends of the Huckleberry is a 30-year-old organization. It was formed in 1991 by Bill Ellenbogen. He had a vision of creating a multi-purpose path to connect downtown Blacksburg with downtown Christiansburg. And so for the last 30 years, Friends of the Huckleberry has been fundraising, doing real estate acquisition, and sometimes even constructing parts of the trail. And so that's what we do now. We kind of support in some of the stewardship items around the trail. Last year was our first year of participating in the Give Local NRV campaign. You know, up until last year, the only way the organization received donations was by check and mail. And so by joining the Give Local NRV campaign, it not only allowed us to participate in Giving Day, but it also allowed us to create an electronic donation platform for year round. So it was a really nice addition for us, not just for that one event, but for broadening our kind of net to capture other donors. So.
Great. Thanks, Beth. And last but not least, Taylor, you want to introduce yourself and Downtown Christiansburg Inc.?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Taylor Terrell with Vice President of Downtown Christiansburg Inc. This is actually my second year with the organization. I believe we've been around since 2013, and our main goal is really to champion the downtown area of Christiansburg as a viable place to live, work, and play. That it is vibrant and can be vibrant. And so I believe we participated in the Give Local campaign before, but last year we really took a targeted approach to one of our main efforts, the Pocket Park, which I'll talk about later.
Great. So thank you all for giving a little bit of an overview. And I think what we heard from all of you, regardless of how long you've been involved, is kind of taking some time last year to really create a particular strategy for how you are going to approach the Giving Day. And that's really what we want to emphasize as a tool for everybody to think about. Even it doesn't need to be something that's particularly in depth, as we'll hear about, but ways to really target what you want to do to make most of the day. So I kind of sent in advance to our panelists some questions specifically related to their approach. So I'm going to talk through those a little bit and kind of ask you all more to talk a little bit more about how you approached it. And Beth, I'll start with you here. So as you said, you guys were new to Give Local last year, and you secured a matching grant, which is one of the tools that we promote quite a bit on the site. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, and then just kind of how you chose to promote Friends of the Huckleberry last year?
Yeah, so I will say that I'm definitely not a skilled nonprofit leader. This is something I do on a volunteer basis. And so I often visit other sites. I see Jenny from the Literacy Volunteers. I was watching you guys throughout the entire campaign last year because you guys were just blasting social media with content. And I was like, wow, that's super cool. So I want to grow up and be like you guys one day. So what we did, we just happened to have a donor come forward about the same time that as we were kind of leading up to the event. And we said, hey, we think what we'd like to do is take your interest in donating and turn that into a strategy for this Giving Day. And they were, and it was Baseline Solar, and they were very willing to participate and go along with that idea. So we kind of maximized that opportunity and promoted their match as part of our campaign strategy. And it worked pretty well. We some of the things, the way that we kind of tackled it leading up to it, I was really hitting social media because, like I said, I was kind of trying to emulate some of the other organizations. And so I was using kind of Adobe products to create some graphics and things like that on social media. I will say one of the lessons that I learned from this, though, is that I don't think a lot of our donations came from the social media or response to social media. It came more from calls to action through emails that went out. So we would get a couple of trickles with some of the social media postings, but as soon as I would send an email out, I could see the notifications coming through for where donations had been submitted. And so what we've tried to do since last year going into this year, and I'm sorry, my computer's, I have like 1,000 messages popping in all of a sudden. So what we've tried to do this past year is kind of cultivate an email distribution list so that we can use that in the upcoming campaign. Because it definitely seemed to yield more donations than the social media posts. This year, and as Jess said, we had a very ambitious set of goals for last year. So we were working on a map, we were working on putting mileage markers in. And so in our messaging, we really talked about some of that work that we were doing, and that really helped drive some donations as well. So Jess, is that?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, you hit on so many key pieces there, and thinking about your audience too, you know, and you're right. Anybody who tracks literacy volunteers and many other folks that are a part of this know that there are some real social media superstars on here, which is really important. And it's good to think about, though, where is your audience? Are they on social media? Are they through email? And how are you getting to them? And then what messages are you sending? So Andy, NRV Cares is an old timer with the Giving Day for sure. But you talked about how last year you really had a focused strategy on a power hour. So talk a little bit more about that. Why did you decide to do that? And then how did you approach it?
I was actually just telling my children today that copying or, seeing something as the highest form of flattery, redoing it. And that's really why, it happened is I had seen, and I think it might've been the literacy volunteers, in their email blast and in their social media posts about them doing a power hour at a certain hour. It was not the lunchtime one. And then I had seen a couple other organizations promoting that they were going to do one a little bit later. And so I was like, well, I'm not seeing anything for lunch. And so I really kind of did this. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm an example of what Jess said is like, you really don't need to put a whole lot behind it, because I kind of thought this through in about a 2-day turnaround. So the day before I said, let's go for lunchtime. I, got my board, made them aware. I started an email blast, said, hey, please donate during this time, give local. And of course, the social media posts. And then I was very, I sent another email blast closer, things like that. And I had some feedback from some of our donors who said, the fact that I gave them an actual time was really helpful to say, hey, if you do it here, it may have even a double win for us. So that could be, really helpful. And that, power hour boost, it's great for a small organization like us. So that was, a great incentive for us to kind of go for it. I was like, what are we going to lose? If anything, we're just going to get more donations. So that was kind of my motivation there is you can't, there's really nothing to lose other than some energy. And so it was really fun, I'll be honest, to see during the hour those donations come in, because that's truly what you're focusing on. And so then we would have people reaching out, should we do it? Yes, please do it now. This is the time to do it. This would really help us. And, again, with the social media, really trying to push it out at that same time too. And like I said, when I knew of some other organizations and the times they were doing it, it was important to me. I mean, granted, I get it. There's a lot of us out there and, there's not, there's only so many power hours. But I did not want to kind of compete with organizations that had the same mission as us, because that just didn't feel as good. So that was something I was kind of aware of as well, was, at lunch, like, we're in a different boat. And so, if donors are interested in that, pursuing some support in, what we do, then they have that opportunity during this time, and to potentially make it even better. And then, of course, I got so excited, I literally jumped up and down when we found out we won. And so we took a photo of me jumping up and down. And of course, of like all of our social media posts that had like 141 views in like 5 minutes, I was like, this is ridiculous. But it does show that, like, even though I do think the email blasts were super helpful, that there are a lot of people paying attention to social media, so that just reinforced even more, hitting it on all fronts is really helpful.
Yeah, that's great, Andy. I mean, I think we hear often from Mighty Cause, our partners, and over time from organizations that kind of taking an approach of focusing on one particular grant, not that there aren't opportunities for multiple, but putting some energy there. And then I think your anecdote about your little video jumping up and down just kind of shows, like, there's just, I find that the stuff that's like kind of the most human and fun and people enjoying the Giving Day is often some of the most compelling when it comes to getting people excited to give to you that day. Okay, so Kim, the Agape Center, as you said, was sort of new as well last year, and you guys used peer-to-peer fundraising. And this, for those who haven't used it before, is the opportunity for your supporters, it can be board members or volunteers, to create their own sort of Give Local profile on the site that's connected to your organization. And they can, in that profile, tell the story about why folks they know should be able to give to your organization. So it's a great way to engage more people in the process, and the Agape Center did a great job with that last year. So Kim, do you want to talk a little bit about why you chose that approach and how it worked?
Sure. Agape Center is a 100% volunteer organization. Throughout all of our centers, there's no paid help, including the directors. And last year we worked with 385 volunteers in our center. And I wanted to capture on that. So I engaged, I work with a professor at Tech who has project management classes, and I engaged 2 of his classes, and I broke down the task into 2 different groups, and I let them build the platform and carry out all of the communications as well. But each of those leaders from the different groups, much of them sororities and different clubs at Techs, fraternities, I had a team, and then we broke down our volunteer staff into teams as well and let them compete against each other. And it was fairly successful. We're still raising money on that. We've, in addition to what we raised that day, we've raised another $45,000 through the platform. Not all of it directly through the platform, some of it through checks, but through the campaign.
Wow, that is really impressive. Thanks for sharing that. And could you just say a little bit, you said the class kind of helped folks. And I think one of the things we hear about peer-to-peer is sort of, how do you train up the volunteers or folks about how to create their profile? It sounds like the students did that work for you.
Yeah, I met with them, maybe 4 times during the process of a 3-month period.
Yeah.
Did a lot of it online, but it was genius. I laid out the guidelines, and they created a really great video, a how-to video to show people how to set up a page. And they also set up a tab in the story explaining Give Local and how to set up a page there. So it made it super easy for people to jump on board.
That's great. That's fantastic. Good to know. And I think too, for those who don't have access necessarily to a student group like that, there are similar resources through Mighty Cause to use that peer-to-peer, but this is a great example of how using those relationships that you have with that student group really allowed you to kind of maximize the ability of the platform, which is exciting.
Yes, and I would encourage anybody who needs help to reach out through VT Engaged. Mm-hmm. And, you know, tap into that student population, because they have to volunteer a certain number of hours every month. They're eager to help. And as long as you give them clear instruction, they do a beautiful job.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kim. So Taylor, again, last but not least, so you talked about how Downtown Christiansburg Inc. had been involved before, but last year you really focused on the Pocket Park. And you guys held an event last year, which was something we used to do a lot more so before COVID, but it was really exciting for us to see some events coming back last year and hopefully some this year as well. So can you talk a little bit about why you chose that approach and how that fit into your overall strategy?
Yeah, so we had a little backstory is that the organization had won a rally grant to do this study for downtown Christiansburg, and the community said they wanted a gathering space. And so we had found this space, this Pocket Park, and, you know, we'd done all the studies, and we had even started its own kind of fundraising campaign, and just weren't really having a lot of traction with it. I think some people, you know, Beth spoke about, you know, it was on social media, people saw it, but we weren't really having the donation follow-up piece to it. So we're all volunteer, and in Andy's boat about 10 days prior, Ellie was like, hey, they're having this Give Local thing. Do you think we could host something? And we're like, heck yes, let's do this. It was kind of in the lull of pandemic world. So we felt like outside, I think people will feel comfortable with this. And it turned out to be great, because we realized that the space where our Pocket Park is most people didn't know exactly where it was and what it would look like. And the fact that people were in the space and could see it being used as a place to gather, a place to have fun, to have community, I feel like just leveraged our donations, and people were a lot easier to buy into the idea. So that's why it worked out with beautiful weather. DCI as a whole has a pretty good network of downtown. We're always surprised when we host an event of how many people come. We always go on saying, I hope people show up. And then to our surprise, there's this need and want for that in downtown Christiansburg. And so hosting the event, we had a donor supply pay for the cost of a beer. And then we had people donate to come in and have a drink and enjoy the space, had music. We kept it really simple since we were doing this on a really quick turnaround. We had another vendor that was already in downtown Christiansburg that sold snow cones. And I said, hey, will you just come set up your booth? And luckily that worked out. The town was really easy to work with. But like we said, we kept it really simple just to get people in the space to see what it could be. And I feel like that really, people can make that connection and could see the vision and were wanted to give.
Hey, Jess, I have a question for Taylor. So how did you connect? Did you have a call to action during the event? How did you get them to the platform?
That's a great question. So there was two pieces to that. Was one, it was a pay to entry event. So the first donation was a simple like suggested $5 donation of coming in, and that was our initial piece. And then throughout the event, we had some tables and like where you got food and stuff, we had a QR code where people could scan to go straight to the giving site where they could see our bigger breakdown of $100 donation for a bush, or 150. We had our 4 tiers. So we had that initial just really entry level donation, and then we had the second call to action throughout the event of pointing people to the site and saying that here's our goal, here's where we are, kind of doing like we've raised this much money, can we double it for the people that are already here? And so we actually had same people give multiple times during that event of seeing where to kind of tracking the progress.
And Taylor, we had a question in the chat. Could you say where the Pocket Park is so folks know?
Yeah, it is. If you know where Great Road Coffee is on Main Street in Christiansburg, it's the old, I think, First Baptist Christiansburg maybe building. It is the green space in between the two buildings, directly across from the Presbyterian Church, I believe.
Thank you. And what I love about your story, Taylor, and really what everybody has said is that a lot of the strategies you all chose felt really authentic to the organization, right? So utilizing your networks, figuring out, what's going to be appropriate for the people that you tend to work with already. I feel like that is just such a great fit. You don't have to overthink this. Just do something that seems to fit with what you know already about the people that support you, and leveraging those networks. I love all those stories. So let me pause for just a second. I have some other questions for the group, but before I do that, is there anyone that has a question just based on what you've heard thus far from our panelists? And you're welcome to speak up while I hit the chat. And folks, take a look in the chat. Catherine put in the email as well for VT Engage. So do go ahead and hit up VT Engage for some great student volunteers. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I wanted to follow up on the peer-to-peer, and thank you for the comments about last year. That was all the magical Linda Jilk. I wasn't here yet for that. But if for those of you that might not be familiar, we had a theme of the future is so bright, we've got to wear shades. And so it was really fun to include that in the graphics for social media. It was easy to have the sunglasses and get people to take their pictures. And so we've got a theme lined up for this year. So we're excited to be working on that. But I did want to share, well, I guess I do have a question, and this might be addressed by somebody. Does anybody ever use any kind of incentive? Like if you give during a certain time, we'll choose one person to get a tote bag or something like that, or kind of like NPR does, where you can, if you make a gift at a certain level. I know it's tricky with the sort of give to get tax rules and stuff, but if they're little tchotchkes or a donated gift or something like that.
So let me jump in on that, Ginny, because technically you are not allowed to do that through the Mighty Cause platform. Now, I say technically because I'm not sure how much they're policing, but I think it's important to know, like, you can't advertise, for example, that you're going to give away, everybody that comes, if you give $10, you're going to get a tote bag. So that's one of the peculiarities of Mighty Cause that we have to be thoughtful about. But I don't think, I think, again, it's all about creativity, right? So in what ways can you still engage folks without making it that give to get piece that's not allowed, but are there other opportunities to do that? And again, that's something to kind of think through. But yeah, good. We get that question a lot. It's one of the things that we're like, sorry, sorry to do that, guys.
Well, that's good to know and totally understand that. And while I have sort of the mic here, I thought I'd quickly share, before coming to Literacy Volunteers, I was at Virginia Tech in advancement, and we had a really big giving day there. And so I worked specifically with our alumni chapters, and we wanted them to participate and raise money for their local scholarships on that day. And so for the peer-to-peer fundraising, we would give them an actual like a copy and paste sheet, sort of a guide to participate on that day. And so we're planning to do that with our board members and some of our volunteers this year too. So like giving them some of the social media graphics and some cut and paste, sort of like, I made my gift today because I believe in such and such, and I encourage you to join me, that kind of thing. And that seemed to help a lot, where people didn't have to kind of think about how they were going to participate.
That's a really great point, Ginny. Kind of making it as easy as possible for folks to be ambassadors for you. Other either questions for our panelists, or and I know I'm seeing a lot of faces on here of folks who have done a really fantastic job with Give Local in the past. So please also feel free if you'd like to share anything that you found successful for your organization. Any other? All right. So
Curious.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Emma.
Hi. And I was about 15 minutes late today. We had a full house of volunteers, so I'm sorry if this has already been covered.
Worries.
But just some good strategies, I guess, for following up with donors. Has anybody had success on that day? How you were expressing gratitude for the gifts that are being made? I don't know if that's follow-up calls, if you have email follow-up, videos. I'm just curious what some strategies that the panelists have used and what kind of success they've seen with that and showing appreciation.
It's a great question. Any of our panelists want to jump in?
Sure. I personally email back every donor as quickly as possible and thank them personally. We have a standard note that goes out through Mighty Calls. We do pay for the advanced platform. And when I first started wanting to do that, the treasurer didn't want to do that because we pay for another platform. And I knew it was a no-brainer. And after this year's income, he realizes that it's a no-brainer too. But one of the great things about the platform is that we're able to move all of our donors from the other platform into that and have everybody there in one place, so that when we do an online campaign, we can get everybody from that one place. So I found that to be a very good tool, and I'm really just learning how to use it, but it has so much potential.
Great. And Beth, did you have something?
I had a question for Kim as a follow-up. I also emailed each of the donors that came through, but on the platform, I also we created a thank you note to the donors. So I'm assuming you have that as well. So on top of that, did you also email them? I did last year because the donor list was small enough that I could do that. And as soon as I would see the notification come through, and I actually knew a lot of the donors, and so it was easy for me to pop an email to them very quickly. But if we get more successful, that list could grow really long. And I, like your group, we're all volunteer as well. So I just wanted to see if you're doing those individual emails. And before I let you answer that question, I'll say one of the things that we did, it came a little bit later in the year, but like for the second giving day at the end of the year, we sent a newsletter out. We didn't do any kind of promotion of that second giving day, but what I did is send out a newsletter on the day and just explained what we had done with the first giving day's money throughout the year. And that actually drove more donations. So we didn't do a specific campaign, but we just sent a thank you note. We didn't even put a call to action in there, and we ended up with donations. But Kim.
That's a great idea. I like that. Yeah, I do personally on both platforms. It doesn't take long, to send us a quick personal note. And there will be a time when I'm not able to handle that, but right now I can, and I do. And even if it's a $5 gift, and you would be surprised at how many people come back and say, wow, it really impressed me that you took the time, to reach out personally to thank me. And many of those people become repeat donors, which is really what we're after. We also take that opportunity to include them on our newsletter list as well. So they are getting that. We put a newsletter out every other month, so they're getting that contact and they're seeing how those monies are spent and what the organization is accomplishing.
Great. Other examples from folks in response to Emma's question about how you thank your donors? I can add in one thing that we do at the foundation. So first of all, when somebody makes a gift through your page, they are automatically taken to that thank you page. I think that Beth kind of alluded to. And you have the ability to customize that. At the foundation, we embed a video that is a bunch of people saying thank you. And I'll be honest that we tend to utilize like the children of the staff and stuff like that to say thank you. And I'm pretty convinced that only my mom gives every year solely to see her grandchildren say thank you very cutely in a video. So that's something that's fun and tends to stand out. But the other thing we do that has been really important to us for our own, the fundraising we do for ourselves on that day is our board members come into the office on the giving day and we have thank you cards and they write handwritten thank yous to the folks that give to the Fund for the NRV, which is what we raise money for. And that is a great opportunity where they can be engaged and feel like they're doing something. Many of the times they know the folks who are giving, but that personalized handwritten thank you, I think for us has been a really nice addition beyond what they see with the video and the email. Any other initial questions or thoughts to share? So for our panelists, and some of you kind of alluded to this already, but what are some of the features of the platform that you really like, utilize a lot? And what do you wish the Give Local platform did?
I can chime in to start off on, I think it is easy to use. I mean, I'm like tech savvy, but I don't know how to write websites, things like that. So, creating the levels and the thank you note and all that was pretty simple to set up. I think one thing that would be nice to see is, so like if you're hosting an in-person event, that transaction time on the giving piece does take a while because they ask for so much information. And so for us, the $5 gift, our strategy wasn't necessarily to look for long-term giving. We were just looking to raise event money for a specific thing for that year. So if there's a way that someone can almost check out as a guest, where all they're doing is putting in their cash, their credit card name, and the basic really short information, and make that transaction time a little faster, that would, I think, be beneficial if you're hosting an in-person event.
Great suggestion. Other thoughts on what you all like about the platform or what you wish it could do?
Let me ask you this. We're getting ready to kick off a brick campaign, and I would like to link that to my Give Local campaign some way this year. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to do that through your platform?
So as in like folks buy a brick?
Yes. Yeah, we'll be doing a community sidewalk into the building. So,
yeah.
The company that we've chose has an independent website that will track all of the donations there. But is there, can we somehow link that into our campaign?
I think I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Kim, because what I don't know is whether that would technically fit the kind of give to get rules that we talked about, where you're getting a brick.
Okay.
Which may be an issue there. But if it is not, then, you can enter what we call offline gifts. And I think most folks know that, but those are, cash or check donations or something that's coming through a different platform. That might be a way to do it, but let me look at that one a little bit more for you, because I want to make sure that we're not, we're meeting all the requirements that might.
Yeah, and the other question I had, because I know a lot of people are doing the virtual walkathons now. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to do that through your platform that it's not too confusing?
Yeah, so there is some capability of hosting, creating teams and hosting events through the platform like that. And we actually had a webinar yesterday with Mighty Cause that is posted to the nonprofit toolkit that references that a little bit, and then you can look into that in more depth. So, you could create a team that might be doing a walk or some sort of online fundraising event. Admittedly, we have not tried that ourselves, so I don't know the ins and outs of it as much, but it is a capability on the site. So that might be something to take a look at the toolkit, and that on Mighty Causes resources too. And then always, I hope that you all have found, we certainly have, that the support folks at Mighty Cause are very accessible. So hopefully they can walk you through that a bit more so than we could. But yes, it is, there's a capability. I'm just not sure exactly how it works.
Jessica,
Yeah.
I'm with McKeep, and they have participated in Give Local before, but I'm now the president of the board, and this is the first time I've had experience with it.
Okay.
I was not sure exactly. I know we still have quite a few people who give just by checks and cash in the donation jar at the stores and stuff like that. But is there some period of time, like, is it just that if people donate that day, we can do it? Or I thought I saw in the information, like if it was, so many days ahead of time, or if people were notified. Can you touch on that a little bit if you know about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we do allow what's called early giving. So any gift that's received between June 1st and the end of the day on June 22nd, the giving day, counts towards your overall total and towards those grants and prizes. So anytime between June 1st and June 22nd, if someone comes into the store and brings a check donation or a cash donation, it can count, provided you enter it into your system as what's called an offline donation. And there's information about that in the nonprofit toolkit. And particularly on that webinar we had yesterday, Sarah, our Mighty Cause contact, walks through that. But you can enter that offline gift in, and then that will count towards your total. And there actually is one of the new grants we have this year focuses on early giving. So the organization that raises the most money during that early giving period will get an additional, I think it's $1,000 from the foundation. Good question, Sharon. Since we're kind of opening up for other questions, I mean, I've got some other ones for the panelists, but y'all just jump in. Yeah, Beth?
So I have a question about, I've looked at it, but I've been always afraid of like going ahead and trying to explore it because I'm afraid I'll mess up my formatting that I have. But, down the road, we're working right now with the regional commission and the localities to put together the first kind of master plan for the trail. And what we've identified are some needs for the trail, and like putting together signature trailhead, like much more artistic, selfie kind of worthy type trail kiosks and things like that. And so we'd like to create opportunities for people to direct funding towards some of these amenities. So right now I have a progress bar for a campaign just in general, but can you create individual trackers?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways that you can go about that. For creating individual trackers, what you're going to do is create what's called a fundraiser. So the way that Mighty Cause works is your overall organization has your profile, money can come into it. But then you can create as an organization a fundraiser for a specific campaign you want to do. So if you all can go take a look at the Community Foundation's profile, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there are multiple sort of funds at the foundation that like to have their own mini campaign, and it's that format. So the fundraiser can be for a particular thing you want to raise money for, and then through the system you can create a goal just for that particular thing. There's a page that's just talking about that. It all feeds up through your organization's page, so you can see it, run a report on it. You can see where money is coming in through which fundraiser. It's all integrated with your organization, but it allows you to kind of have those independent streams of fundraising. It doesn't all show on one page, right? Like here's, you can't have like multiple trackers showing up on one page at a time, but you can link those all underneath your site. But it's called a fundraiser. And again, if you take a look at the toolkit and look at Mighty Cause's additional support services, doing that is very, very easy. And on that one, we do that a lot, Beth. So you're welcome to reach out to me. The other thing you all can do though, if you if you're not interested in having kind of an individual tracker for each one of the things you're raising money for, is when you set up your checkout page, as it's called, you can create custom questions. So you can ask when somebody is making a contribution to your organization, whether they want to direct it to a certain place. And you can create that, I believe, as a multiple choice, like I want it to go to our endowment, I want it to go to our, trailhead project or whatever it is. That is still within your organization, but it doesn't have that kind of separate tracker to see how close you are to your goal. But there's a few different options there depending on how fancy you want to get, Beth. But yeah, good question. Any other questions folks have for our panelists or Give Local in general? So I'll kind of maybe as finishing us out with the panelists is if you all could talk about other, tips that you would share for folks, particularly folks that are either new or it's the first time that they are the ones at their organization sort of leading the charge. What advice would you give to folks about how to make the day successful? And anybody want to jump in before I just call you out?
I think kind of what we all have been saying is just really staying in touch with your donors, and really getting the word out to them. But also recognizing that, sending that email a week ahead of time, you're still going to need to send that email again, probably a day ahead of time and probably the day of as well, so like, it is going to be one of those times where you're like, man, I'm bugging them, but you kind of need to really get what you want for the day. And then they probably won't hear from us for a little while. Right. Like, so, kind of hitting them hard for that day, just to, help them understand the importance, I think is okay. And then, having fun with it, like Jess said, this is a really awesome thing that gets done in our community, for nonprofits, and we're all in this together. We all share very common goals of just helping our community. And so just kind of enjoying that, having fun with it, supporting each other. So like, that was something really cool that we would do with others. So I noticed that some other organizations were donating to us during our power hour. So we turned around and donated to them during their power hour, because, that's what we're in. We're trying to help each other out. So I think those kinds of things are really fun, and just, it's awesome that we have a day like this that brings it to light. So thank you to the Community Foundation for hosting this. We really, I greatly appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks, Andy. Great advice. Other advice folks want to share?
I would say when we planned our event, I know you've heard this several times, but just keep it simple and have fun. We didn't try to program every hour. We had a 3-hour event time, and we said we'd talk about once an hour and say a couple minutes, but the rest would just be mingling and enjoying being outside with people. And then when we're doing that event, we were thinking about this year. So we had made sure we had someone taking pictures and video so that we could promote it again this year and show, hey, this is what happened last year. You don't want to miss out. And so if it's your first time hosting an event, just make sure, you're thinking about how are we capturing this so we can promote it for next year.
Great advice, Taylor. Other thoughts from folks? And I'll say too, and I mentioned this yesterday on the webinar that we had, but as you get to know the Mighty Cause platform, there are some great ways that you can look at metrics from previous years. So you can see what hours people were giving or not giving as much, which that was just a revelation to me last year, that I was like, because we get, Laura's on the call with us, we get a little nervous at certain parts of the day. We're like, are we going to meet our goal that we set, and all this stuff. And now with the metrics, we are looking at it and we're like, well, 2:00 is always a slow hour, and so it's really helpful to see that. And I would just emphasize what Taylor and so many folks have said, to really have fun with this day. I always go into it thinking that this is great. I have no meetings on my calendar because it's Give Local, so maybe I'll get a little work done. That is never the case. We are always like watching social media and seeing all the stuff come in and just like celebrating when we hit a milestone. And it is so much fun. Yeah. So really kind of enjoy and have fun with that opportunity. So let me I'm going to share as we finish out here my screen one more time with you all about some things that we have coming up. So first of all, this call was recorded, as you know, so we post these to the foundation's website. And if you just go to our homepage, you'll see our kind of scrolling images on the front, and one of those is for the nonprofit listening sessions. So you can access previous Zoom sessions there. Just give us, a day or two to post that recording up there. And then we'll also include that in a future nonprofit email that goes out as well. As I mentioned at the very beginning, in this year, we're doing quarterly in-person sessions. We had a great one back in February in Pulaski. And now our next one is coming up on May 19th. We're using these quarterly sessions to focus on the broad topic of leadership. And so the session coming up on the 19th is going to be with some folks at Radford University who are going to talk about how do you demonstrate and communicate the different leadership skills that you have. So, we hear a lot of times about, employers stuff saying, do you have critical thinking skills? Do you have team building skills? And sometimes it's hard to figure out, okay, how do I communicate that I have those as a leader? So we're going to be talking about what ways do you demonstrate and communicate that. And then for those of us that are either hiring folks or looking for volunteers, what might we look for as folks are coming to us about their leadership skills? We'll send out more information about that. It will be in Montgomery County. We're just trying to decide on the exact location. So be on the lookout for announcements about that. And then finally, just some other things around Give Local to share with you. Hopefully you all have registered, but if you haven't, go to the GiveLocalNRV page, and there's a link as soon as you get on there to register your organization. Even if you participated in past years, we ask you to register every year so we have the most up-to-date information about your organization, because we use that for the grants and prizes, and of course for all the communications that we send out to you all. Under the resources tab is that nonprofit toolkit, and that's really your go-to for information about ways to use the platform. Mighty Cause has hosted 2 webinars. One that's just an overview about how to build out your profile page if you haven't done that already. And the second one that we just held yesterday is about some of the tools like peer-to-peer fundraising or Teams that just gives you a brief overview of those. We've also posted all of the 2022 grants and prizes. We have $15,000 in grants and prizes again this year. So take a look at those. And after you read through the grants and prizes, below that on the page are just the guidelines as well. So make sure you're taking a look at those so you understand how we do things like decide what category your organization is for small, medium, large, those kinds of things. And then early giving begins on June the 1st. And then I wanted to add as well that we're really excited at the foundation to have a new staff person. So folks may know that Ashley Agee, who was our Give Local guru, moved on to another opportunity. And so we're excited to have Lindsay Gleason be joining us on Monday as our new assistant director. And Lindsay is going to be in charge of Give Local. This year, Laura, Lindsay, and I are all going to be working together to make sure that she has what she needs and that we make the most of the giving day for all of you. But we will have a dedicated staff person to that again. And as part of that, beginning in May, you're going to start to get those regular emails we send to nonprofits with information about the giving day, links to different resources, announcements, everything you could need. So again, make sure your organization is registered. So we use that list to then send out all of those email communications. All right, anything else anyone wants to share, or Laura, anything I missed about announcements from the foundation? think we're good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. Thanks in particular to our panelists for taking the time to join us this morning and sharing all of the successes that you had as part of Give Local. We're excited again this year to do Give Local with you, and really look forward to the opportunity to see you all just raise a ton of money on the Giving Day. So thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.